And welcome into Gator Bytes on the 1010XL.com podcast network, also being simulcast on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Today's Gator podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists. For the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for any orthopedic injury or concern. And be sure to log on to their website, se-ortho.com. He is Dylan Denmark. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. You are Florida Gator fans, and the Gators end their season on Saturday against Florida State. And mercifully, the season will come to an end at either 3-9 or 4-8, and then all eyes will turn to Lane Kiffin watch and the decision. Although there is a world where maybe we know what Lane Kiffin's going to do prior to kickoff between Florida and Florida State. Denmark, I don't know if there's really a lot to discuss from last week. You were in the swamp for that beatdown that Tennessee handed Florida. It was 31-0 before you blinked. The Gators had, I think, 1 yard of offense, like 25 minutes into the game. And then Tennessee just basically decided to stop playing and go through the motions and didn't score in the second half. They still won by 20. What was the thought leaving the swamp last Saturday night?
Waste of time and waste of money.
Yeah.
Was there. I saw the Urban Meyer video. I was like, I should probably go to the game. Just why not? I ain't been in the game in the swamp this year. I ain't been in the swamp since Florida played Ole Miss last year. And I didn't think we would win, but I expected at least somewhat of a decent game. I thought, being at home, Florida's played bad against Kentucky. Went on the road, but I mean, to not essentially have a first down until the start of the second quarter, that was when Florida fans really cheered sarcastically as if something big happened when Jaden Ball got that first down at I think the 10-minute mark of the second quarter, somewhere around there. And then to not get a point until late in the third quarter was pretty bad. It was 31-0. It was just bad. And I was thinking about going to the Florida State game. Yeah, I ain't going to the Florida State game after going to that game.
No, I mean, look, and I get it. I mean, the defense, at some point, we knew the bottom was going to fall out of the defense. It looked like it happened in the first half last week. The offense has given them basically nothing a majority of the year. The season just needs to end. Again, mercifully, the season will finally be over on Saturday. But in the tailgates around the swamp, walking into the stadium, people you talk to, what was the vibe, at least last Saturday, before or during or even after the Tennessee game, about, the Lane Kiffin situation?
Before the game, most people were still confident that Lane Kiffin was going to come to Florida. That was before the game. I didn't really talk to anybody during or after the game. Since then, there hasn't been really any talk. It's been pretty quiet, which is kind of, I feel like, pretty odd. The last time we spoke was Friday on Gator Bytes. And since then, the Ole Miss AD and Lane Kiffin met. They said that there was going to be a meeting. They met, and they said that the decision is going to be made Saturday after the Egg Bowl. And then the contract details got leaked from LSU. And then not long after that, Florida and Ole Miss basically said, yeah, we kind of matched. Those details are pretty much the same what we've offered. Since then, there's not been a whole lot. At least that's been reported from national people. I was listening to a lot of LSU content. Matt Moscona of Locked On LSU. I know you know him. I was listening to High Top Sports last night, and then he brought in an LSU guy. I forget his name. I apologize. LSU's very confident that Lane Kiffin's going to go to LSU. And if I have to lean right now, I think Lane Kiffin goes to LSU. It's the first time I felt different. For a couple of reasons that we can get into it. But as we speak right now, I think Lane Kiffin goes to LSU. And apparently there was a lot of Florida people. This is what Matt Moscona said last night on Locked On LSU, that Matt Moscona talked to 3 different people. He talked to a source from Florida, a source from LSU, and a source from Ole Miss. And basically, they all believe that Lane Kiffin is going to LSU, and Florida kind of conceded. and they said they kind of moved on, and they were talking to other people. Those people included Clark Lee from Vanderbilt, Brent Key from Georgia Tech, and Eli Drinkwitz and John Summerall. So we'll see how much of that is true. Obviously, a lot of that can change. As we were talking to you Wednesday morning, the day before Thanksgiving, and he's going to make his decision, I think, Saturday morning. So we'll see. But this is the first time I felt, the whole time I felt like Florida, the next coach for Lane Kiffin is going to be Florida. And now I feel a little different.
Yeah, the vibe certainly is LSU. And here's my thought. And again, it could definitely change. Again, to repeat, we're doing this on Wednesday morning, the day before Thanksgiving. So don't copy and paste this if Kiffin decides to go to Florida, 3 days from now. Again, this is Wednesday before Thanksgiving. But my thought is LSU, and it has been, I guess, for the last 24 hours. That could easily change. But there is a confidence out of LSU, whereas there's a very quiet, um, just not a lot of noise coming out of Florida. Now, maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, but here's my thought on Kiffin. I mean, we're talking $98 million is what's being reported. I mean, what is that? A 7-8 year deal, probably going to pay him $14 million a year, something along those lines. I mean, the expectations on that guy, whether he stays at Ole Miss, whether he goes to LSU or goes to Florida, are going to be through the roof. I mean, you're paying a guy $14 million a year, roughly. Denmark, if he doesn't win a national championship, or at minimum, I mean minimum, go to the quarterfinals or the semifinals of the playoff in year one or year two, the noise wherever he is going to be ratcheted up. I mean, that is going to be a wild situation. He has to win, making that kind of money with the circus that has happened here over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, why does any fan care about what any team is paying a coach? I mean, it's not your money.
No, but that money does signify that he better win. He better win quickly.
Right. I don't disagree there. I think if he comes to Florida, the bottom's going to be 9-3. That's regardless of whatever money they pay him. So yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be, you got to be a playoff team every year if you get a Lane Kiffin. If you get the best candidate for the job, you got to be able to be making the playoff every year, because I think, and this got backed up with the playoff. They're probably going to move to 16. Shoot, they might move to 24. Who knows? So it's going to be a lot easier than what it is now. Yeah, you got to be making the playoff.
If Lane Kiffin goes to LSU, I think that is the absolute worst case scenario for Scott Strickland. If he stays at Ole Miss, Strickland can say, well, we tried, but his heart was at Ole Miss. If he goes to LSU, Gator fans are going to be pissed. Let's just be honest. Because you probably could have had Lane last year, and you stuck with your buddy, Billy Napier. And if Strickland pivots to a Clark Lee, or as much as I would love a Brent Key, I know Gator fans wouldn't love that. Yikes. I've been of the opinion all along that if you miss out on Lane Kiffin, you got to at least call Lincoln Riley. You got to call, a bigger name to see, because I just don't know how Strickland's going to recover if you miss out on Kiffin and you pivot to a John Summerall or a Clark Lee.
Yeah, I saw a lot of reports are coming out yesterday. Colorado State's got their coach now. Oklahoma State has their coach now. James Franklin signed with Virginia Tech. And then yesterday, Lincoln Riley said that he's staying at USC. I know those are just words that, no extension was made. And there's been talks that Eli Drinkwitz is meeting today at around 3:00 for contract extension talks to begin. Yeah, if you're not able to get Lane Kiffin, and Florida Gator fans are going to look at this and say, Scott Strickland should be fired because we weren't able to get Lane Kiffin because he went to LSU. He should be fired for what happened a year ago. I'm gonna just go before you retain Napier. Remember, after the Georgia game, before they played Texas, Scott Strickland wrote that vote of confidence saying Napier's not going anywhere, essentially, and that those last 3 games didn't matter. He was going to be the coach for next year. Then he goes on a good 2 week run. And just like most men, when they make a decision, they don't want to admit that they're wrong. They want their guy that they hire to work. And last year, the biggest thing that I kept harping on that I didn't really feel like was talked about enough, there was no big time job open last year. The biggest job that was open last year was North Carolina.
Yeah.
And North Carolina is not on the same, not in the same circuit as Florida and all these jobs that are open now. Now you wait a year, and then you lose to USF, and to every Gator fan, it was not surprising at all that you lost to them, and that's kind of, that's pretty big. If you have a really really good football coach, losing to USF would be shocking, and so now you're at the point now where you fired your coach after the Mississippi State game halfway through the year, and now you have all these jobs open. And you got to make a decision quick, because if Lane Kiffin makes his decision Saturday morning and goes to LSU, and then you keep waiting a couple more days, well, the field of candidates keeps shrinking. So Florida's got to make a decision quick if Lane Kiffin moves on, and that decision needs to be made by sometime Sunday or Monday, I think.
Look, I'll tell you this, and Gator fans aren't going to want to hear this, but that's fine. And I totally understand why they don't want to go down this road, because it would be perceived as Billy Napier 2.0, and I totally get that. But the idea all along is that Florida had to get a coach out of the Power Five, and they still may. But if Kiffin goes to LSU, I don't believe Brent Key is going to leave Georgia Tech. He would be my number one, but again, a little bit of the luster is off of him because of what's happened with Tech the last couple weeks. I still love Brent Key, but I totally get it if that's the direction Florida doesn't want to go. Denmark, I think you could do a lot worse than John Sumrall, and I totally understand that that's a group of five guy, and people are going to think that's Billy Napier 2.0, and there's nothing I can say right now, the day before Thanksgiving, that will change your mind. But I do like John Sumrall. I like John Sumrall a lot. You hear other coaches talking about him that have worked with him, including Liam Cohen, who worked with him at Kentucky. You hear Mark Stoops talk about him. You see the job he's done, not only at Tulane, but prior to that at Troy. You hear a guy like Caleb Ransaw, who the Jaguars drafted in the third round. I did a whole thing with him on John Sumrall, and he was just raving about the guy. I wouldn't hate it. I know a lot of people would until September, when you actually have to see what it looks like on the field. But I wouldn't hate John Sumrall. My concern would be if Kiffin goes to LSU, Sumrall would then go to Auburn, and then Florida would be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's been a lot of conversation with that too. I think it's going to be one of these four people. I think it could be Drinkwitz if he doesn't sign an extension with Missouri, Clark Lee from Vandy, Brent Key, or John Summerall. I think it's going to be one of those four if you're not able to get Lane Kiffin. I would be fine with Clark Lee if I had to pick one of those four.
Can you get him away from his alma mater? Brent Key's the same thing. Can you get them away from their alma mater?
I think you can. Money talks. That's like this season. Whenever Florida fired their guy, everybody in the college football media kept saying, "Well, why would you leave Ole Miss? Why would you leave? You have the same thing at Ole Miss that you have everywhere else." And then now we're right here, and it's like I think people would be very surprised if Lane Kiffin is to stay at Ole Miss.
Yeah. Southeast Orthopedic Specialist brings you Gator Bytes, 1010XL.com, and the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page for the highest quality care. You can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialist for any orthopedic injury or concern. You can listen to the good doctor, Kevin Murphy, Thursday mornings in the 7 o'clock hour with Jeff and Dan on the drill for his weekly analysis of injuries in the world of sports. And we certainly appreciate Southeast Orthopedic Specialist for their continued support here of the Gator Bytes podcast. I guess we'll get to the game in a moment. They do actually play Florida State on Saturday.
We don't have to talk about the game.
Yeah, I mean, nothing says college football pageantry like 4:30 on ESPN2 for the 5-6 Seminoles and the 3-8 Florida Gators. So, of the four that you mentioned, again, it's almost like a post-mortem here because You wake up one morning and it seems like there's a lot of traction for Lane to stay at Ole Miss. You wake up one morning, there's traction for Lane to come to Florida. We just happened to wake up this morning and it seems like today's an LSU day, which is why we're almost getting Gator fans ready to say, well, he probably isn't
Well,
coming. It could change in 24 hours, but when we're doing the show right now, today feels like an LSU day.
here's the thing. Only Florida media believes that Lane Kiffin's coming. Now, I mean, it's
Yeah,
obviously been quiet. Um, and it's so weird. Like, Florida met with Lane Kiffin Thursday night, and like that story went out Friday morning from Graham Hall, and then it just like vanished, like within a snap of a finger.
because
Like everybody else,
yeah,
everybody else,
go ahead.
everybody else thinks that Kiffin's going to LSU. Everybody from people from LSU, the Ole Miss people believe that, and all the national media.
Most Florida media, not all, but most, I believe, are talking to the same three or four people. And they're hearing the same story from the same three or four people. You talk to the national folks, and it's all LSU, LSU, LSU. So it depends on who you want to believe. Um, if Kiffin goes to LSU, I think you're at a category 4 disaster at that point, depending on who you hire. Again, I would like John Summerall. I get why people wouldn't. What about you? If it's those four that you mentioned, Drinkowitz, Key, Clark Lee, or Summerall, how would you rank them 1 to 4 in your pecking order?
I'd go Clark Lee 1, Brinky 2, Summerall 3. 2 and 3 can be exchangeable, and then Drinkwitz 4.
I'm not a Drinkwitz guy either. Why? Why? I mean, I guess I'm asking you to think for me, but since you have Drinkwitz 4 as well, neither one of us, I know a lot of people are not Drinkwitz guys. Why is that?
Nobody is. I don't know anybody that's a Drinkwitz guy.
I just don't know if his shtick would work in Gainesville. He's kind of a quirky dude.
Well, I don't care about the shtick and the personality and what you say at a press conference. I mean, that to me is 100%
Well,
irrelevant.
talk to Jim McElwain about that because
Right,
that did not work in Gainesville.
but he didn't win either. You
Yeah, he
weren't
did.
winning.
He went
You're
to two
the
conference championship games.
He did, but he's the offensive guy, and you put up 2 points again. You were shut out against Florida State. If it weren't for that safety,
I'll push back a little bit. I'm not saying that's the end all be all, but like getting a New England guy like Brian Kelly to go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, some stuff like that matters in SEC, towns and fan bases. I mean, you can't. You gotta relate to the fan base a little bit. That's why it sucks that Muschamp didn't work out because Muschamp was one of us and he just didn't win. Obviously, you have to win. That's first and foremost. They could get a guy from Australia, and if he goes 12-0 every year, they'll be fine. But if you're going 8-3, 9-4, whatever, I think if you relate to the fan base, you'll be around a little bit longer, like Muschamp was, compared to a McElwain who just simply did not relate to this fan base at all.
Yeah, and you said it a little bit there. Like if you're 9-3 and 8-4, if you're not winning, it's not a good fit. That's period, point blank. Brian Kelly didn't work not because it didn't fit, because he didn't recruit Louisiana people. And when he was going 10-2 and playing in the SEC title, they beat Alabama year one. No one was talking about fit.
Right, but why wasn't he able to recruit Louisiana people is my point.
Because he wasn't trying.
He wasn't one of them.
Well, yeah,
we'll agree to disagree on that, but keep going. So I agree. Drinkwitz is 4th out of the 4.
Yeah, it's all about winning, and I think of those 4, those guys give you the best chance to win. And Clark Lee, the way he's done it at Vanderbilt, from like literally the ground up, when Vanderbilt's 100% completely irrelevant.
He struck gold with Diego Pavia. That's his thing. That's what would concern me. If he strikes gold, then he can win. But Clark Lee be in the conversation if he didn't have Pavia.
But here's the thing, though. Like, their offensive line and the way they've been able to run the football, too, is a big thing. It's not just you have this dynamic quarterback that is making all your plays. You've literally built this roster from the ground up. You've had defenses that have been in games with big-time SEC teams week in and week out, and you've been able to run the football with a very good offensive line. That's kind of where I kind of changed my mind. And it's not just Diego Pavia making plays.
You look at the two most successful Florida coaches of the last 30 years, 35 years, Spurrier and Urban. Their offenses were dynamic. Their offenses were unique. Clark Lee and Brent Key are both either defensive minded or offensive line minded guys. Would the Florida fan base be ready for something like that? Would they appreciate something like that instead of the fun and gun of Spurrier or the spread of Urban?
Will it win? Here's the thing. Like the offseason is not going to be good if they don't get Lane Kiffin. Like that's just for these next 9 months, it's not going to be good. And then you're going to make a decision, based on what you see on the field in September and October. And then if you're winning, it's fine. But if you're not winning, then it's just going to be, all hell's going to break loose. Essentially, you can't. I mean, this whole thing, Gator fans, what are they going to think? What are they going to think? I mean, they're not going to be happy, and then you're going to wait 9 months and then see what it's like on the field. That's really. I hate to be like that simple, but I think that's just the easy answer.
No, I don't disagree with that. I mean, for me, I hate to go back on what I said because Brent Key to me is still a guy that I would really like, but what's happened at Georgia Tech the last couple of weeks has been a little concerning. And Brent Key is kind of the same thing with Clark Lee. He struck gold with Haynes King. I mean, Haynes King is unbelievable. And would Brent Key even be in the conversation without that quarterback? Now, he got the quarterback. So there is something to be said for that. I'm probably 1 and 1A right now between Brent Key and John Summerall. And maybe I'm a little biased because I really like Summerall because I've talked to him a couple of times. I did a story on him, and I've just talked to numerous people that talk about how good he's going to be when he gets to the Power Five. But you could say the same thing about Napier, 4 years ago, and I totally get it. I would not hate Clark Lee. I probably would not be a fan if Drinkwitz was here, and I do agree that one of those four. I mean, you're not giving any credibility to the Jed Fish stuff, even because he's got the ties to Florida.
He's probably in the conversation too, but I don't think they'll hire him.
Yeah, I agree. Either way, like you said, it's going to be a PR nightmare if Kiffin goes to LSU, and it'll be excuse me, it'll be fascinating to see how Florida deals with that because it is not going to be a good look, and it will be a terrible look for Scott Strickland.
Yeah, and I think we'll know by Sunday or Monday because they're going to pivot quick. I think the decision is going to be made Saturday morning, and if that's the case, then I guess I don't even know if Scott Strickland will even be at the game Saturday because the game's at 4:30, and then you're going to pivot it and you're going to move fast because you're probably the best job that's available if LSU's gone and they get their coach, and then you got to move quick because the more you wait, the more you wait, it's not good for you.
No, because you still got to compete with Auburn for some of these guys, including a Summerall.
Oh, and Ole Miss too. I mean, what Ole Miss is offering is the same now as Florida and LSU. So you would think that they're going to, whatever the contract money wise, the NIL and all that, the revenue share, is all going to be relatively the same.
And again, we could be doing this and maybe overthinking it, and we could wake up 72 hours from now, and it is Lane Kiffin. But that's just not the way the wind is blowing, at least right now on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Southeast Orthopedic Specialist brings it to you, the Gator Bytes podcast. Again, thank you to se-ortho.com is their website. Thank you to Southeast Orthopedic Specialist for the highest quality care. You can rely on them for any of your orthopedic injuries or your concerns. Southeast Orthopedic Specialist has been with us for years here on the Gator Bytes podcast, and we certainly appreciate their continued support. Quickly, let's do 60 seconds. What kind of game are you expecting on Saturday?
I have no idea. Florida's going to give up. I would say if Florida State was even half a resemble of a good team, that they would probably give up at least 250 yards rushing. I saw the first, outside of the last 3 games, they gave up like 900 yards rushing all year. In the last 3 games, they've given up like 700 or something ridiculous like that. They can't stop the run. The offense is just putrid. They can't do anything. I saw it's like an even game yesterday. The point spread's now like Florida was favored by half a point. Florida will not score an offensive touchdown in the fourth quarter. I can guarantee you that.
Ugh.
So I don't know. Some team is going to make a mistake, and then that mistake is going to kill that team. I would probably lean Florida State just because of one, they haven't won a road game since they played Florida in 2023. If
Which
you can
is
believe that.
crazy to think about.
Which
Crazy to think about.
I mean, they play in the ACC, the toughest conference. I mean, Stanford and North Carolina and NC State. I mean, NC State was like one of the worst ranked defenses in the country, and Florida State put up 11 points.
If there is any silver lining for Gator fans, is that Florida State sucks too, and their fan base is fuming that Mike Norvell has to come back in 2026 because literally they don't have the finances to fire him.
Yeah, well, they don't want to write the check, and they would rather spend $4 or $5 million on the portal to get a quarterback, and hopefully it might work next year. I think that's the plan that they're going down for Florida State.
I mean, there's no way I can pick Florida to win with as bad as that offense has been as of late. I would love for Florida to win the game because then, Florida fans wouldn't have to deal with their Florida State brethren talking smack to them for the next 365 days. That is the only thing to come out of this game. A year from now, 2 years from now, we will not remember the 2025 Florida State game. There is literally no difference to me between 3-9 and 4-8. What's the difference between a stomach ache and a headache? It's just basically the same thing.
Yeah, well, and for these recruits, it's not going to matter either, I don't think.
No. So we'll see. I mean, with all that being said, listen to the game on 1010XL, 4:30. 4:30. Huge college football time slot. 4:30 on Saturday with the Gators and the Seminoles. Give me Florida State by, I'll take Florida State by a touchdown.
I'll take Florida. Let's see. They'll go down. They'll kick a field goal with 2 seconds left, and they'll win 17-15.
Think Florida wins?
Yeah, Florida wins. Don't ask me how.
Wow. All right. Well, and that'll give them positive momentum heading into the offseason. Don't we always hear about the positive momentum heading into the offseason?
That happened last year, remember? They beat LSU and Ole Miss, positive momentum going into this year.
And that's certainly carried over. All right. Next time you and I talk will be 9 days from now, I guess. The Friday before the SEC championship game. Who is the head coach of the Florida Gators?
Jeez, man, I have no idea. I'll lean John Summerall, and then I'll lean Clark Lee.
That's exactly what I'm going. I'm going John Summerall 1, Clark Lee 2. I think Lane Kiffin's at LSU. Is that where you think Lane ends up?
Yeah.
We shall see. It'll be fun to watch. At least till Lane Kiffin announces he's going to LSU, and then it'll be bad for Gator PR, and it'll be bad for AD Scott Strickland. Denmark, have a happy Thanksgiving, man.
Yep, you as well. Everybody else listening, we had a lot of people popping in. We appreciate it. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy a little bit of time off and time with your family, man.
This will be it for Gator Bytes until Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you the week after. If you want to listen to Denmark and myself tonight, one more Hacker After Dark on 1010XL Radio, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock here on a Wednesday. We will talk to you this evening. For Dylan Denmark, I'm the Hacker Ryan Green. Thank you for watching and listening to Gator Bytes, 1010XL.com and the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page.